The Medicine Bag by Virginia Driving Hawk Sneeve. My kid sister Cheryl and I always bragged about our Sioux grandpa, Joe Ironshell. Our friends who had always lived in the city only knew about Indians from movies and TV, were impressed by our stories. Maybe we exaggerated and made grandpa and the reservation sound glamorous, but when we'd return home to Iowa after our yearly summer visit to grandpa, we always had some exciting tale to tell. We always had some authentic Sioux article to show our listeners. One year, Cheryl had new moccasins that Grandpa had made. On another visit, he gave me a small, round, flat, rawhide drum, which was decorated with a painting of a warrior riding a horse. He taught me a real Sioux chant to sing while I beat the drum with a leather covered stick that had a feather on the end. Man, that really made an impression. We never showed our friends Grandpa's picture. Not that we were ashamed of him, but because we knew that the glamorous tales we told didn't go with the real thing. Our friends would have laughed at the picture because Grandpa wasn't tall and stately like TV Indians. His hair wasn't in braids, but hung in stringy gray strands on his neck, and he was old. He was our great grandfather, and he didn't live in a teepee, but all by himself in a part log, part tar paper shack on the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota. So when Grandpa came to visit us, I was so ashamed and embarrassed I could have died. There are a lot of yippy poodles and other fancy little dogs in our neighborhood, but they usually barked singly at the mailman from the safety of their own yards. Now it sounded as if a whole pack of mutts were barking together in one place. I got up and walked to the curb to see what the commotion was. About a block away, I saw a crowd of little kids yelling with the dogs yipping and growling around someone who was walking down the middle of the street. I watched the group as it slowly came closer and saw that in the center of the strange procession was a man wearing a tall black hat. He'd pause now and then to peer at something in his hand, and then at the houses on either side of the street. I felt cold and hot at the same time as I recognized the man. Oh no, I whispered. It's Grandpa. I stood on the curb, unable to move, even though I wanted to run and hide. Then I got mad when I saw how the yippy dogs were growling and nipping at the old man's baggy pant legs, and how wearily he poked them away with his cane. Stupid mutts, I said as I ran to rescue Grandpa. When I kicked and hollered at the dogs to get away, they put their tails between their legs and scattered. The kids ran to the curb, where they watched me and the old man. Grandpa, I said, and felt pretty dumb when my voice cracked. I reached for his beat up old tin suitcase, which was tied shut with a rope, but he set it down right in the street and shook my hand. How takoza, grandchild, he greeted me, formally in Sioux. All I could do was stand there with the whole neighborhood watching and shake the hand of a leather brown old man. I saw how his gray hair straggled from underneath his big black hat, which had a drooping feather in its crown. His rumpled black suit hung like a sack over his stooped frame. As he shook my hand, his coat fell open to expose a bright red satin shirt with a beaded bolo tie under the collar. His getup wasn't out of place on the reservation, but it sure was here, and I wanted to sink right through the pavement. Hi, I muttered, with my head down. I tried to pull my hand away when I felt his bony hand trembling and looked up to see fatigue in his face. I felt like crying. I couldn't think of anything to say, so I picked up Grandpa's suitcase, took his arm, and guided him up the driveway to our house.